Fitchburg City Council. I now call this meeting to order. Please be advised that FATV is conducting audio and video recording of this meeting for public broadcast. I ask that anyone else in the audience who is recording this meeting to please identify themselves for the record now by standing and stating their name and city of residence. Seeing none, I ask that all electronic devices be placed into silent mode at this time. Councillor Di Natale, would you please lead us in the salute to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councillor Di Natale.
Here.
Councillor Fleming.
Here.
Councillor Green.
Here.
Councillor Schultz.
Here.
Councillor Van Hazinga.
Here.
Councillor Walsh.
Here.
President Zarola.
Here.
Councillor Boschman.
Here.
Councillor Kuchar.
Here.
Councillor Cragen.
Here.
Councillor Cruz. 10 members present.
Thank you very much. We have no one signed in remotely for public forum. If there is anyone in the audience wishing to speak, please approach the center podium. Identify yourself by name and city of residence and the agenda item on which you wish to speak, and you will be given 2 minutes to do so.
Good evening, councilors. Harold Mateo, 1118 Water Street, Fitchburg, Mass. And I guess even though the appointments committee went earlier, I'm not sure if you're touching on this topic here now. I think you are as a councilor at large. Can you confirm? Yes? Excellent. I'm here regarding the appointment of our standing building commissioner or interim building commissioner. Who I've had the opportunity to work with over time, over the last few months, last year or so. Brilliant person, like him as a person. I do feel that as a building commissioner, there are some restrictions. Again, this is nothing personal to his person or character. I actually like Felix very much. And I am here on behalf of myself as a construction supervisor, as an owner of property on Main Street, on Water Street, on a bunch of different streets in Fitchburg. And as a concerned Fitchburg, someone who's invested here. Earlier in the committee, Felix mentioned that he has an updated cell phone now. I have to get that number from you, Felix. I do not have it. I do have your personal, and I have texted Felix many times, and he has responded. However, I have texted over the last 2 months and have not received any responses back, which is one of my concerns, and it's also one of the concerns that 7 to 8 of the other developers have raised to me. Among them, their question of whether they should even be pulling permits or not because of how complicated things are. Considering that the city is facing a significant budget crisis, I think it's important to be able to pull permits and to be able to get building contractors in and out, not hanging on forever. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Jeremy Ethier. I have the same concerns. Felix is great, highly intelligent, very qualified for the job. But is it his job? Is he going to be here? Is he going to continue to do it? Because I do have several issues that will be addressed eventually if the mayor and people return calls to deal with. Somebody needs to take control of the office. If you put him in there, that's great, but we need him full time. He needs to do the job that he's being hired for. We're not going to keep circumventing it to make things fit to what Fitchburg needs at the moment. Let's make it work as a city, like everyone else does, like every other town. If we have to follow permits, we have to follow a certain, then everybody should follow the same. We shouldn't keep catering to the things we don't need. Thanks.
Anyone else? All right, we have some announcements. The Stratton Players are having a play reading at the Leominster Library Thursday, June 12th, 6:30 p.m. This is 400 Years in the Making, American Slavery on Trial, Frederick Douglass versus the Old Family, an original play by Cedric Arno featuring historical characters including James Baldwin, Thurgood Marshall, Governor George Wallace, and civil rights leaders, where the audience becomes the jury. Can you determine the legitimacy of American slavery? This will be the final play reading event of the season. The Stratton players also have on the second Friday of the month, of each month, from 6:30 to 7:30 at Christ Church, 569 Main Street in Fitchburg, an improv group which is open to kids, teens, adults, and seniors. It is pay what you can. And again, that is Christ Church, 569 Main Street, 6:30 to 7:30, second Friday of the month, and you can RSVP to strattonplayers@gmail.com. First order of business, we have the report of the Appointments Committee. Councillor Kuchar.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Appointments Committee met earlier this evening. We took up 3 new appointments. First new appointment letter, Fitchburg Disability Commission for a term to expire May 1st, 2028. Emily Starks was unanimously approved. New appointment letter for the Human Resource Director, Brittany Fish, that was voted to hold. And a new appointments letter for the Building Commissioner, Felix Zemmel, which was also voted to hold.
Mr. President.
Councillor Green.
Do we need a, can I just speak about the appointments?
Go ahead.
Committee? Okay. I would like to ask the mayor to stand at the podium and explain, extrapolate on how the 2 new appointments that are being held, how they came to be, and then how we went from essentially potentially having Ms. Fish out of a job, considering that her position has already been filled. I'm concerned that we're damaging people with a process for policy and procedure that we don't have in place. So I would like to hear from the mayor how it all kind of came, how we ended up here with these before us.
Thank you. So first, for Human Resources Director. Brittany Fish has been our Human Resources Generalist for many years, multiple years, and, you know, having Susan Davis exit the role, Brittany Fish, I asked her to serve as interim Human Resources Director, and she thought about it and agreed to take on that position. And over the course of the last 5 to 6 months, you know, we've really seen how Brittany has an amazing ability to both have compassion and understanding for the needs of the employees, but also have that kind of tough and fair and honest conversation with both the employees and with the administration, the department heads, or the supervisors, letting them know, working as a mediator between everyone, making sure that the employees' needs are best represented, but also making sure that the city's needs are best represented. While facing numerous challenges over the last 6 months, Brittany has really impressed not only myself, but the department heads across the city, including the supervisors. Considering that this, just to back up to the process, the city of Fitchburg generally has a succession plan process when it comes to department heads. There are the majority of our department heads in place. We did not put out job searches for or advertise these job positions for many of them. So there's a good reason for that, in that We have many of these employees who know the role. They step up to the role in an interim position, and they prove themselves to the administration and the other department heads. I am certain that if you take the time to talk to the other department heads, especially ones that regularly work with Ms. Fish on a regular basis, that they will have that one-on-one conversation with you, and you will be convinced, as I have been convinced, through this last 6 months. We have had a few situations where we have advertised for the position for department head with an internal applicant. And the vast majority of the time, the entire search committee team chooses the internal applicant because they know the city best. They've been working in this role, and familiarity and customization when it comes to the city of Fitchburg is extremely important. And having someone there that knows all the people, have worked with the people for years, it makes a big difference. And so, and when it comes to Commissioner Zemmel, he's just extremely qualified and impressive. When I came into this position as mayor, Mark Barbadoro had left for a different position in September, October of 2023, and Commissioner Zemmel was appointed as in an interim basis. And at that point, the position was advertised, and it was advertised for 4 months. And we got 4 candidates. 2 of them were a situation where you're like, okay, that's not qualified at all. You're not qualified at all. None of the candidates actually had a building commissioner designation. One of the candidates had to fly in from farther away in Massachusetts. He would need to commute through plane, but he had another role that he was applying for that if he got this role, he was letting us know that he would not be in this position. And then there was another candidate who was not the right fit. So it was very clear after having this position open for 4 months that Commissioner Zemmel was already doing a great job, considering that we have that kind of flexibility where he was able to work remotely because we have implemented this OpenGov system. So we have this OpenGov permitting system thanks to COVID. But in the time that Commissioner Zemmel has been here, we have built that out to an extremely robust and useful system. So when he first came on, we had this permitting process where it came through the building department, and if we caught it in time, then we'd share it with appropriate departments, right? But there was situations in the city of Fitchburg in years past where a project would start, they would get the permit, they'd go to the zoning board, they'd get everything they think they need, they'd work for 9 months, they'd invest $100,000, $50,000+, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then they get to the situation where the DPW stormwater comes for the final permit, and they go, wait a minute, we have no idea that this was even going on. We're going to need civil engineering plans, we're going to need analysis, we're going to need this, we're going to need, at this point, the applicant's saying this is going to be another 4 to 6 months of delay. This is going to be another, $10,000, $20,000 worth of engineering, and then I'm going to have to go to another zoning board. They're going to have to approve it, et cetera. And this happened numerous times. So now, thanks to Commissioner Zemmel and his very vast knowledge of the OpenGov permitting process that we have, he was able to build that out. And now, when someone applies for this form of intent process, firstly, it's a $30 form of intent. Instead of someone calling up and go, oh, what do I need? And so the person answering the phone, making sure that they can answer everything of, okay, this is what you're going to need. All right, you're going to need this, make sure to call them, make sure to call everyone and send everyone off. This form of intent process that was created is comprehensive. You apply for this $30 form of intent, you explain everything you're going to do, and it goes to all the different departments, from building, from DPW, from fire, to police, to the mayor's office. So that we all have input and communicate and say, this is what you're going to need. Food permit, this is what you're going to need for a food permit. You're going to need to apply for this. You're going to need to, patio permit, You know, you're going to need a license for the food and beverage, for the alcohol, et cetera. And so it's all in that kind of streamlined permitting process. Links are provided. You can apply for your building permit, at which point your building permit then, you know, it triggers DPW stormwater, it triggers it. So we have an excellent situation with both of our department heads, and we would truly be at a loss if we lost either one at this point. So I would urge the council to approve these appointments, of course, but, you know, in the situation where if you'd like to see a search put out for candidates, we can certainly do that. You know, from what I have seen, we're going to be in the same situation, but if that is the will of the council, absolutely. We will advertise this position, and I'm sure Ms. Fish will be happy to work with us as well. And if we get into a situation where we find a candidate that fits better, the offer for our current HR generalist was contingent upon, you know, the HR director position. So we'd probably have to have a situation where it might behoove us to look into adding that part-time position back.
So is our new policy and procedure for succession plan going to be somewhere where we all know that current department heads or managers of departments should keep in the back of their mind that the next one in line should be trained so that if they leave, they're just going to roll into the position? And or are we eliminating putting job postings out? Because, I mean, what would happen if there was, you know, somebody, the best HR director that we've ever seen that's ever come along, you know, riding on a unicorn down Main Street, falls in our lap?
That sounds amazing.
Right, that does sound amazing, but what is the process and policy going to be so that people internally know if they ever have a chance of advancing or moving to another department, or is it going to be out into the public as, you know, we look to garner, you know, the best of our industries. You know, we want that here representing us.
So just to start, it's certainly not a new policy for the city of Fitchburg. If you look at many of our department heads, many of them moved up from their current position. You know, our community development director, our DPW director, retirement, auditor, procurement, just to name a few. So this is very common practice for the city of Fitchburg, not now, but for many number of years. And that's for a good reason. You know, you keep morale up, and we keep the internal talent that we have grown and that we have fostered for years, we keep them with us. You know, I feel like the city of Fitchburg, the department heads here, the vast majority of department heads have a commitment to the city of Fitchburg and to see us grow and to see us succeed. So, you know, when we foster that and when we see that within our department heads and, you know, with our city hall kind of community, or really city as a whole, because we have, you know, many other satellite operations, that's the kind of situation where we say this is the right fit. And sometimes these candidates, they're not the right fit. Sometimes people are not in a position where they can move up to be the manager, the department head, because there's stress and there's a lot going on. It's a very stressful situation. You have to work a lot of hours in order to get the job done correctly. Sometimes weekends, holidays, I mean nights and weekends, you're always on call. You're constantly answering text messages from the mayor, asking questions and everything. You know, so, you know, it's a stressful situation. It's not for everyone, but it is for many of the talent that we recruit here in the city of Fitchburg, and many, you know, that we can grow into that position, which allows us that knowledge transfer, because we have a lot of complex systems and a lot of difficult situations here in the city of Fitchburg. So, you know, making sure that we have staff that can help out, you know, on a dime or be ready to move into that role. I think that is a true testament for the work that we do here and the collaborative work that we do here in the city.
Thank you. I yield.
Councillor Boschman.
Yeah, Mayor, well, since you're up there, but all my questions are not going to be related to the mayor. But one thing, I remember back in January, early January, you sent the whole board a letter stating that it was going to be a temporary position for HR.
That's right.
That you were definitely going to go out and advertise and seek the public to see if there was going to be somebody that applied. And then I talked to you a few months and I said, well, what are we doing? And you said, well, I'm really thinking about hiring. And I stopped and I said, well, I thought you were going to advertise because I'm telling you, I don't believe she has qualifications for the job. And I feel that, and I told Anthony, we argued that outside, and I told some of my fellow councilors, I feel that way. I'm not an expert. I'm going to be far tell you the truth, I'm not an expert. But just by the resume that I read and what my counsel on the left read over there, and I did send that resume, I did talk to somebody that was in HR and showed them the resume, and they said they didn't have enough qualifications for the job. And I'm only going by what they told me. And I'm not lying when I'm just saying that because I didn't want anybody to come back. And I talked to Andy today about it. I did do that because I don't want somebody to say you never did that just to say you did. So I did. And I was kind of upset because the job never got posted. You never gave anybody an opportunity to apply for the position that we don't know. They may be able to, like Councilor Amy Green said, would be able to qualify to come in here and do the job because this is a very, very important year. What do we want to sit here, all of us, and say, she's sweet, she is sweet, but it's a very important year. You said it yourself. Numerous contracts are coming up. Numerous. And the last time I gave away the kitchen sink, well, my wife wants it back and we got to do the dishes. So I'm just telling you, we got to take something and we got to be firm. And this is not saying that Amy Green's a sweetheart and Melissa Fleming's a doll and Bet Walsh is my best friend over here. It's not that. It's just that the job is a very important job. His job is a very important job. He's got good qualifications, and I'm leaving it off for you now, to him. He's got good qualification, Counselor. And I admit, I heard him talk, and I'm going to be the first one to tell you. I called him up after 9 o'clock one night. I felt like a fool. I really did. I felt like an idiot. And I told him that I bothered him at home. I didn't feel comfortable me calling him up at home for a problem that I had, and I wanted to get some answers for. But if I wasn't a city councilor, this is my problem I have when we all sit here and we all say, I get quick reason. Don't you understand? We're a city councilor. Read the thing. We control the budget. We control him. He's a politician. No offense. He's a damn good politician. Very good politician. He knows what his bread and butter is, like everybody else. He does, and over here does. Everybody knows. So they're going to treat you like you're a king. But if I was Paul Boschman and I had an issue, I want to get that kind of response. I want to get that. Now, my argument is wholeheartedly, and I'll say it all the time. I drive around, I go down, I see a problem. What do? I come out of my way, I park my car right over there. I go all the way up, I walk. I don't take the elevator because I need to exercise. And I go to that front window, and there's not a soul there to help me. We're running a business. This is a business. If this was your business, you'd be upset because you're losing money. And the clients are there to get answers. And they can't get an answer. And we say, go online and you can reach us or write it. Write us a note and we'll answer you within 24 to 48 hours or maybe even longer. Maybe even longer. Is that the way you want to do business? Is that the way we want to do business, Mayor? I don't want to do the business that way. I can honestly tell you, if I get phone calls at my house from my residents and I don't respond, you know damn well on that damn Facebook page, I'm going to be screaming. He never calls us back. He's only at my house when he wants to vote. He's there. He's there. He makes sure of that, though, but he never gets that job done. Is that really? Is that what we're thinking? You guys put it on hold. I'll listen to your hold. But I want to make it very clear, because I told him before where I stand on this issue. I believe we have a fine line to run here. Very fine. And I'm going to tell you something. I was a steward in a shop. I was a chief steward in a shop. I was never a president and never a vice president. I had to deal with people every day. Every day. And you got to treat your employees the same. You can't make exceptions for the rules. You can't do it. It's not right, because they feel left out. They feel, you can say, he needs, I'm sorry. I saw my question to him, and I want to ask the question. I don't have this thing. If Andy's got it, I'll take it. His resume is marvelous. He's 10 times better than me, well-educated, well-versed. He knows the law better. But like anything else, when you go in there and you look at a resume and you're doing a hiring and you say, oh, geez, he worked here for 1.5 years. He worked here for 2. He worked over here for another 2.5. And you say to yourself, why is he leaving? Why would you come to Fitchburg, Massachusetts, drive an hour to an hour and a half a day on that darn Route 2, and fight the traffic and get road rage at the same time for the damn thing? And all that.
Hold on.
The point of order is that we have digressed from the matter that we were discussing, and there's also been repetition.
I'll ask that you make your point briefly and stick to saying it once. You have
I didn't
most
talk
of these
about Route
points
2
already.
yet, Mr. President, and I didn't
It's
talk
true,
about
you haven't
Boston,
mentioned Route
and I
2.
didn't talk about, and I did not talk until my fellow councilor did not talk about the other stuff on here that they just said. I did not say that.
As long as you proceed through and make each point once, that's fine.
I
Go
have
ahead.
done that, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
I have not gone down everything, so please.
Go ahead.
I gave people their opportunity. If we're going to play this game, we'll play it good, because I can get there.
Go ahead.
And so, well, you got me all sidetracked.
Route 2.
Yes. So anyway, to make myself clear, my feeling is this. I'm responsible, whether they want to be, and you guys want to say it or not, what happens over there. That's what, and the people out there. We're costing them money. For every day that goes by, for every week that goes by, for every month with this economic the way it is, we don't know what we're going to be paying tomorrow for a piece of lumber. And so if they wait an extra 35 days to 40 days, that lumber that costs $1.99 now costs $4.99. So now the price has gone up. And that's not our job. The people out there got a hard time, and everything costs sky high. We need results. We need somebody here and that. And going to Britney Spears. And Brittany, oh, not Britney Spears, but Brittany Fish. Brittany Fish. I want to make sure you understand. I don't want the girl to lose the job. I'm not here to do that. I'll feel very bad for her if she lost her job. And that's because of our stupidity, because we were afraid to ask questions, and we wanted to all get along, because if she looks good, we all look good. So I think that if something should happen down the road and we cannot come to an agreement, that she should be able to walk right back in to her present job and have the other party move over and goes by seniority. If you believe in seniority, in which I do, it should go by seniority. That's how I feel. But I'll also ask, and you guys don't want to ask this question, if we're going to advertise the job for HR, that an independent search party comes in and sits and they make their recommendation. an independent search party, because there is going to be a conflict of interest. We have somebody that's there, and we might side that way with this present one, and it should be independent. And that's how I look at it. I yield the floor because I don't want to hear another point of order. Here you go.
Councilor Gianatoli.
If the appointments were given leave to withdraw and not held, wouldn't they still be in their current positions? They're not just going to, that doesn't mean they pack up their bags and leave tomorrow, correct?
Potentially.
We would need to get some legal clarification on that.
It wouldn't, let me put it this way, it wouldn't oust them from their position. I think the concern that is that if you're in a position and you've already been told very clearly that you're not going to keep it, then you're not going to stick around.
Okay, so I have quite a bit to say, and I promise I won't try to repeat myself, but that is why we have a process in place for the appointments. I don't believe it's a good practice on the council's part to not give leave to withdraw certain appointees purely because we're afraid they're going to walk out the next day. Well, then why are we doing this? What is the point? And I know my colleagues keep referencing, many of them, this isn't personal, this is personal. If the candidates take this personally, that's their problem. Okay, this is the process. You're in a public setting, you're going to get scrutinized in open session. I have sat through many appointments under 3 administrations now. There are many instances where prior mayors, the ones that I served with, Wong, Di Natale, where when they did not conduct a thorough search or a search at all, the city council would be understandably and justifiably irate about it. Not everyone in this body, but some of you who were here. And the comment made earlier about, well, a lot of our department heads are from a succession plan. That is not true. It's not. The city clerk went through a hiring process. The treasurer went through a hiring process. The purchasing director went through a hiring process. The former building commissioner went through a hiring process. I can go down the list. It's not true. I also don't appreciate hearing for the last several minutes about how everything was apoplectic in building the last several years, even though our permits went up 25, then 30, then 45%. And we had 75 new small businesses open, several new developments. The North Central Chamber of Commerce was here telling us how great things were on the up and up. You think that we had people sleeping at the wheel in there for the last 8 years. That's not true either. My colleagues have correctly pointed out an issue about lack of a hiring process. We have had hiring processes in the past where we've had search committees who would provide a recommendation. And if the committee recommended A and the mayor chose B, a lot of my colleagues, not just relegated to this room, but a lot of my colleagues, I can understand, we're not happy about that. The biggest example I can recall is the fire chief appointment prior to Chief Suarez with former Deputy Chief Tad Dadio. And now we're in situations where there is no process. So for those who are upset about a process, but the person you wanted in that process that was chosen wasn't ultimately picked, I would expect you not to even agree to this. Now, to hold the candidates responsible for the mayor's lack of a process, and that's aside from my history with the current administration. I've been saying this. Wong, Di Natale, when he hired the former HR director, there were issues I had. This starts and ends with them, the mayor, not the candidates. I saw one of the candidates leave the room earlier in tears. And I felt terrible for her, and that's the mayor's fault. She stood there, the candidate stood there and took questions from you folks on the committee. And the mayor didn't get up once to defend her nominee. But now we hear from her when the candidate's gone. And I feel terrible for that candidate. Because I know on controversial appointments, I know because it's documented. Lisa Wong especially, who I always came to blows with, she would be next to that person pounding the table. She was one of the best debaters I ever dealt with. Not in this case, nothing. Terrible. This concern about, well, if we don't hire her or appoint her, she'll lose it. Folks, maybe this is my entire life in the private sector, and I'm not saying this to be cold-hearted, but that is not our responsibility. I don't feel bad about that because I didn't ask for this situation. The mayor put us in this situation. The mayor was a counselor for 6 years. She knows how many of us feel about stuff like this. She was one of them who kept saying, like you, sir, from Ward 2, where's the process? Where's the transparency? And here we get nothing. Now, many people may forget that all of a sudden, but I don't. So, I am not in favor of holding these appointments. If we hold these appointments, what is that going to accomplish? What are our expectations? There's nothing stopping the mayor from just resubmitting the name or saying, I'm sticking with it. Can't stop her from doing that. What's going to change? We're going to have a hiring process? How does that make things better for the candidates that are in the queue waiting? That's not fair to Mr. Zemmerl and Ms. Fish, that we're going to hold them over and have it. It's the same argument I made about the health insurance a few months ago, where the recommendation was to hold it, and I argued strenuously not to for this exact reason. It's a hammer hanging over their heads if we hold it. There needs to be clarity. And I don't feel bad providing clarity in the negative because I didn't ask for this. This is what I think, my opinion. I'm going to state that. There are times where I feel like this is intentional because now we look like the bad guys. It's not right. And it's inconsistent with past practice. So I am not in favor of holding it. My mind is made up on the candidates. And it is purely based on many of the points that have been raised. And this stuff about, well, we did a search and we couldn't find anybody. Do you know how many times in my 18 years I heard that from the last two mayors? The former mayor would drive me up a wall. The former building commissioner, how did we get him? The former mayor told me when the commissioner before that commissioner left, I don't want to, well, not left, but he wanted to change. I don't want to change him because I don't want to put it to, no one's going to be interested. I don't want to go through that. I said, what the heck is the matter with you? That's a ridiculous reason to keep somebody. Well, how do you know unless you do it? And if you do it and it doesn't pan out, you keep doing it. So I just don't feel like the answer, it has nothing to do with qualifications. It's process, and if we hold it, I don't know what we're going to get out of it. We're going to get some grandiose policy in the next month or two saying this is what we're going to do? Oh, wonderful. I still don't think it's fair to the candidates that are waiting. I think we should make a decision. And if people don't like our decision, I know what I'm going to say, and it's not for the reasons many people may think. I hope most, if not all of you would agree with me, this starts and ends with the mayor. If Mr. Zemmerl and Ms. Fish don't get appointed, it's her fault. Because there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. If Mr. Zemmerl is the most qualified person in the United States of America to do this job, do a search committee. Pick 4 or 5 candidates, including him, and then have him be the top. I'm speaking hypothetically. You don't know unless you go through the process. You didn't go through the process. And so I think it's inconsistent, in my opinion, on our parts, to say, well, it wasn't followed this time, but we'll do it next time. It's inconsistent with prior decisions we've made as a body. And to answer my colleague to my left, your questions to the mayor were not answered. okay? We got a bunch of fluff about why these two candidates are worthy of the job. No one is arguing the worthiness of them being in the role. We're arguing the fact that this was not transparent, this was haphazard, and the explanations given are not true. Most of our department heads were not succession people. And the ones that ended up being in the job by means of maybe a succession, most of them went through a process first. Auditor Brooks was the deputy auditor before Dick Saracen left. He didn't just walk in he didn't just walk in. He had to go through a hiring committee. How do I know that? I was on it. He had to prove to the committee that he was worthy above and beyond outside applicants. It's the same thing we did with the police chief earlier. We've done it before with Robert DeMora, who was from Shirley. You go outside and you look inside. So I've said enough. I don't want to hold this because I don't know what that's going to accomplish. So I think we should I am not going to vote to hold it. I am not going to vote in favor of accepting the committee's report to hold it. I am going to vote no on holding it. And unfortunately, we don't have a motion on the table as to whether we will approve or not approve the appointees, so I'm not going to say how I'd vote on them, but I can tell you right now, I am not in favor of holding it, because my decision's made up on the appointees, and nothing's going to change that. I don't care if we wait 6 months for a process and then they come back to us. Nothing's going to change. Because some of my colleagues were correct earlier. There are many people in City Hall that have valid reasons if they need to work from home. They're not afforded that right. It's nothing against Mr. Zemmel. Again, mayor's decision to have him have that accommodation, but no one else. And I've said enough. I don't want to hold it. I am prepared to decide on both appointees now. And I just feel like we're kicking the can down the road. We're delaying. People already have their minds made up. I'm sure the 11 of us have our minds made up, yes or no, on these individuals. I feel like we're just delaying it because we don't have, my opinion, some of us don't have the heart to just say yes or no. And if you're concerned about the candidates, I think it's unfair to them to hold it. It's unfair. Because we have no shelf life now on when that's going to happen. When is it going to come back to us? When are we going to get our information? In the case of Ms. Fish, if we're going to go throughout a hiring process, that could take 4 or 5 months. And again, another issue with the budget. We had the HR generalist brought on to the role, and Ms. Fish was elevated to interim HR director before this was fully adjudicated by the city council. Again, another misstep by the mayor, putting the cart before the horse, and that happened with the legal department last year. The appointment was made before the council made the transfer. Because in my opinion, the mayor is daring us to go forward with these decisions, because then she's going to go back and tell everybody, well, it's not my fault. They wouldn't allow them to go forward. Puts it on us. That's not right, and every one of us should look at that and go, feel insulted by that.
Council President, if I may, I appreciate what everyone is saying. And my perspective working with these people many hours a day for the past 16 months, 18 months, you know, I have a very strong perception, and but I have taken everything you've said to heart. And the last thing I wish that you would do is to turn down these candidates, because we as the city of Fitchburg are in a difficult situation financially, and we are in a difficult situation when it comes to the building commissioner. We lost a building inspector that we've had for many years. We have a the HR who is in a current capacity able to work with the 2 personnel. In a previous situation, we had 3 inspectors, and we had another part-time employee in the Human Resources Department. We even, we can absolutely do a search committee and perform that process, but the last thing I want to see is to put the city in a situation right now, especially when we have multiple contracts coming up and we are in a fiscal difficult situation, handicap us, and put us in a situation where we no longer have that succession of understanding and knowledge of the City of Fitchburg processes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wasn't finished speaking.
I apologize. I thought you were. I'm sorry. No, we can't take comments from the public during council meetings.
Because it was brought up earlier about the budget. If there are concerns about this, there is a way out of this. We have the budget process coming up, and you're all going to fall out of your chairs when you see the amount of cuts I'm putting forward. But I can guarantee you, if even a fraction of them are approved, you could reinstitute the third position in the HR department. You can, by cutting it, sending it back to the mayor, and having her add the position. If she chooses at that point not to do it, that's on her. But there is a path to add another position in HR. And I have to keep hearing about the budget being in a big problem. Well, that's not what I read online from the mayor every day. Everything's great, according to her. But she just said we're in big trouble. Yeah, we are. I'm glad she's admitting that here, not out there. But if we're in big trouble and we're worried about HR, there are at least 11 positions in this budget that are being paid for that are unfilled and won't be filled for several months. So if people have concerns about someone's employment, there is a way to mitigate that concern. Don't pay for one of these other positions that you're not going to have online till February probably, and bring one of the HR positions back. That's leadership. Thank you.
Councilor Schultz.
Yeah, Mayor Squally has left the podium, but I was going to ask, what the plan was going forward if we hold these positions. I mean, if these positions are held, like someone said, it's likely that these people are going to leave their positions in a short amount of time. So I'm just wondering what the plan is going forward if these positions are held and not at least given some indication that they might be approved at some later date.
Well, I can certainly tell you, employee morale makes a big difference as to, the commitment that employees have in general in the city. But I believe that the current candidates before you, if we are in a situation where we can put out the job again for a building commissioner and we can review the applicants that we receive, we can put out the job for, advertise the job for human resources director and see the candidates that we receive and absolutely give that an independent review through a search committee to ensure that we have the best candidates, and these are for sure the best candidates before us, or B, they are not. So that would be the process.
Now the posting, would it just be a regular posting, or would you be looking for a nationwide job search to find these candidates? I mean, that would be an expensive process, and that's why often we have a succession plan in place where we look to an internal candidate, right?
Councilor, the search committee process for an independent situation is multiple thousands of dollars, if not over $10,000. And for a nationwide search committee process, I'm sure that would be even higher dollar figure than that. You need to hire, independent evaluators to, we need to advertise this nationwide, take these candidates, independently review them. I mean, that's a lot of time and a lot of reporting. And we are not exactly in the situation where we have a lot of excess capacity in our budget. I mean, we're trying to cut everything that we can to make sure that we preserve every job that we have. And a lot of these unfilled jobs are unfilled because I specifically asked them not to be filled, because if we cannot balance this budget, the last thing I want to do is actually have to do reduction in force and have to lay off employees and fire employees, because ultimately it doesn't save the city a lot of money. But a lot of these positions are needed. So for a search committee process, I would advertise it in such a way that it's not costing us a significant amount of money, and try to do this in a situation where it's not. If council demands that we do a, search committee process that costs us dollars, we can find the money, and it can be done.
Yeah.
So, the number one best thing that we need for the city is commitment, knowledge, accessibility, ease of work with people. There's so many needs that we have, and right now I can tell you, working with 2 HR directors, we have an amazing candidate before us. And I know that this is a difficult process, going through this kind of public job interview that you wouldn't get in a different situation where a private company. And certainly when we hire non-department heads, these kind of situations are not advertised publicly. But I can tell you that the candidates that we have before us are ready and willing to, put themselves before you. And I assume that they will be here to do whatever it takes to ensure that everyone here is comfortable with them. I would...
On the building commissioner, Mayor, I was going to ask if we don't find anybody again to take that position, do we spend the money to go with a job search so that we can find somebody, or are we just left hanging with no one filling the position?
We're in a situation where, the pay that we have, I believe is competitive. But, when it comes to private sector employment, it doesn't exactly match up, right, for the amount of hours and stress and knowledge that we demand. If we were to have a situation where we need a different building commissioner that maybe doesn't have their building commissioner license, maybe this is the best candidate. They have a great, because a lot of the situation when it comes to people is their ability to talk and communicate, right? Knowledge is extremely important. There are a number of factors when it comes to all these different positions that are required in the city. But for building commissioner, there are multiple certifications. There's knowledge of the building code. There is knowledge of how to make sure that we stay the city out of legal situations, legal trouble. There are so many layers to when it comes to building commissioner, which is why internally no one applied for that job, which is why we put out this job for 4 months and there are not a lot of applicants, which is why you can go across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and there are not a lot of applicants.
In other words, we'd have to go back to a consulting firm to fill the position.
We could certainly try that. A lot of these jobs are difficult, challenging, stressful, need a lot of qualifications really to do the job well, and then, require a lot of hours and a lot of public meetings. Sometimes it's hard to find that unicorn. Yeah. And like Ms. Fish said, no candidate is perfect. No one's perfect at anything, but what we do is work for that commitment for this job and commit to that vision and, that kind of working relationship that we have, which is so important. And when you find someone that is able to work with all our department heads and help out, and when you answer that phone and say, I need you to help, can you help in this committee? Yes, absolutely, anything you need. We do everything we can to hold on to that person.
Thank you. I yield the floor.
Councilor Cragen.
The Mass Municipal Association has pretty comprehensive website. The Beacon is their newsletter, and their charges are $100 for, I think, the first 100 words. And I'm looking right now, but it's cities like Newton and Melrose and lots of towns, and there's actually, a lot of people are looking for building inspectors and are looking for HR, so that does exist, that is out there. That's all.
Thank you. Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 2 questions for the mayor, if you don't mind. If you could outline the experience that the candidate for the HR position has in contract negotiations.
So working with, Ms. Fish over, we've worked with currently 6 contract negotiations, just in the past 6 months alone, with her as the direct. And then being the HR generalist, she's had, 2 years of that experience as well. Prior to that specific contract negotiations, I'd have to pull up all my records off the top of my head. But, a lot of these things are an art, right? And Ms. Fish has an incredible ability to be frank and direct and work on the side of the city, because we know that we have a challenging budget situation, but also work within what the employees need and make sure that everything is fair and truthful when it comes to the employees as well. So I have been very impressed in contract negotiations with Ms. Fish. I mean, I have been involved with them personally because, we are in a situation where we have to say no. There's been situations where we could say yes. And like Councilor Boschman said, we got into a situation where we are properly compensating our employees, but we cannot afford to hire more or to fill our staff, so we have a balancing need, and that's why we do these negotiations, to make sure that, the employees explain what they need, and sometimes it's not always monetary. And from the city, what we're willing to do and how we're willing to be flexible in these changing times, or with these changing departments, or with these changing needs. And being able to work that out, it's been, I've been very impressed. If I was in a situation where I thought, all right, look, like Ms. Fish said, there was never a period where I said, you will have this job. I said, will you take this on an interim basis, and we will see how everything goes, and I appreciate you stepping up to this. And from day one, she took over and cleared the backlog, much like Commissioner Zemmel said. We had a backlog of policies, of issues, of letters not out, et cetera, that, we're taking care of right away. And, I have been very impressed, and I can tell you there's a reason that HR is situated 2-3 doors away from the mayor, because, every day I'm in HR. I call myself the glorified HR director as the mayor, because if anyone has a problem, they go to HR and then they go to the mayor, or sometimes they go to the mayor, then they go to HR. So I work very closely with Ms. Fish, and I can attest that for her qualifications in contract negotiation and with employee negotiation, with workers' comp and everything else that we throw at these employees. And if we were to hire out and bring in an entirely new employee who doesn't know the departments and the city, has to come up to speed for a number of months, we will need additional staff. And when it comes to the commissioner, if we had additional staff in the building department, that would increase everything so much. The availability for applicants, for knowledge, for people at the window, everything. We have 2 employees that have been there a long time that have a lot of time available, and there are two inspectors that are out straight. We have a building commissioner that's acting as an inspector.
I've gone beyond my question. And I do have another question with regard to Mr. Zemmel. And I'm a little confused. I've heard that there was a process and people who had applied weren't qualified, and then I heard there was no process. What was the process when Mr. Zemmel, he was initially brought on as a consultant, and then all of a sudden he was the interim commissioner? How was that process? How did he go from consultant to commissioner?
So the building commissioner job was posted in the city of Fitchburg for 4 months.
Okay.
We had 4 applicants, 2 immediately not qualified, 1 a concern, 1 would be flying in from another community far away enough that he would require his airplane. And this person also indicated that they wouldn't be committed to this job because there's a better job out there that they're looking for. So, I mean...
Okay. I do have a question with regard to, and you just sort of touched on it, with regard to negotiating with a specific candidate to accommodate them. And I guess that concerns me.
Which candidate?
The candidate for commissioner.
Oh, yeah.
Commissioner.
I mean, that's originally he didn't.
Let me ask my question. Or let me voice my concern. My concern is that I don't know that there are any other department heads who are working from home. I don't know that there are any other employees who are allowed to work from home. And I think that there are several employees who have children, who have daycare issues, who make a lot less than Mr. Zemmel and are in a position of having to provide daycare, and they are not given that same opportunity. And I think that that is vastly unfair to those people.
I can tell you that many employees in the city of Fitchburg are offered this flexibility when needed. When it comes to both department heads and for employees. We do not have an employee handbook. We do not have any policy when it comes to remote work. So I drafted that policy a number of months ago, but it's ready to be implemented and adjusted. We're at the devil's in the details part. Because we also have a situation in the DPW where we have a civil engineer position that we desperately need. As you know, DPW engineering is just out straight. Commissioner Erickson is one of our unicorns for sure, but he needs additional assistance. The problem with our civil engineer position, though, is we find that these positions are offered for MassDOT remote, and they're offered for more money, and they're offered remote. And this kind of flexibility and that kind of job is able to be done remotely a few days a week. And what I have found, in the beginning, Commissioner Zemmel wasn't applying for this job because he had that need for flexibility. But after working with him for a number of months, it was clear he can do this job and do it remotely as well in this situation. And, it's always been under this understanding that this would not be permanent. He has a situation where certain accommodations need to be made. And we have, like President Zarella said, we have to weigh, what those accommodations are worth for the city of Fitchburg. Life is not black and white, and people are not black and white. The situations exist in the gray, and sometimes flexibility needs to be made for both what's best for us and what's best for the candidate. And sometimes those things align, and sometimes they do not. In this situation, I believe solidly they do align, and it's worth us to make that accommodation because we are getting a lot out of it.
Yield the floor.
Councilor Boschman, second time.
If anybody else get questions, they can go, then I'll come back.
No, I already skipped to the other people who had first-time questions.
Okay. The reason why I asked for say, I heard my fellow councilor to the far right of me. I want to make it very clear, I'm totally anti-corporate America. I think corporate America has made us what we are today. And I wholeheartedly understand, and I'm not going to go blame her. What I blame is every one of us right here. That's who I'm going to blame, not just her, us too. Because I do have a heart. You told me my intention when I started this whole purpose wasn't to make her cry. That was not my, I feel awful bad about that. I feel awful bad because I think this position would have passed until I started opening my big mouth. that I made her cry. And it was, that's not my position, and I hope you understand that. I'm not here to hurt anybody in City Hall or anybody. I do have a heart. I just wanted, you know, I just thought personally the right candidate. And if we said, I have, you know, I know, Mark, that you're going to roll your eyes up, but if we have some kind of a system where we say, okay, I think it's June 1st or 28th. I think that's when his period's time's up anyway, June 1st. But if we had a system where you say to me or to this council, say, this is what we plan on doing from here, and I guarantee you within 6 months, we'll come back, and if the only candidate is a him or her, then I think I could live with that. But to give it an eternity of infidelity, it can go on forever, I don't think I can do that. That we say we just use the excuse we can't find somebody. You know, I can't do that. I just can't sit here and say, yeah, it's okay, and we're not addressing. I understand what you're saying about people working at home, but the federal government just put a whole big stop on it. And I'll tell you something right now, and I think I told Marcus, we let some people work at home one day, and I'm driving around, and it's 2:30 in the afternoon. Who do I see? The same people we let at home driving around. And they saw me, and they were stunned. Or if I go to Home Depot, and the same people that I left at home are down at Home Depot. So I say, gee, you know, but I had to be at my machine every day. I had a certain time, and I had to punch that clock to be there, and I had to punch the clock when I leave. But that's how I feel about this work at home. I feel like the big man down there in Washington. Be here. We can keep a track on what you're doing. As a department head, you can oversee your department. You can tell me what they're doing. If I come up with a question, because we just had this, Council President, what did I say? No accountability. None whatsoever accountability. So I don't know what Peter over here will do and Paul's doing over here. So I yield the floor because I know it's getting late.
Councilor Giannatalli, second time.
I just want to clarify, I did not say, Counselor, that you made her cry. I said she walked out visibly upset. And it's not anybody here. I did not make that comment. But if I come across as hard or heartless, I don't intend to be that way. I believe in our roles as a legislative body, as a check and balance, as we are part of this process. And if I hear some of my colleagues say, I feel bad, it's not fair, what are we going to do if we don't hire you? Then I ask myself, why are we here? Then we should just approve every appointment this mayor and any mayor going into perpetuity puts forward then. Of course, there's going to be appointments that were brought to us that we don't agree with and we don't vote for. I don't recall in the past with some of my colleagues who have voted against appointments having that concern. The fire chief was a prime example. The committee voted, the council voted overwhelmingly not to support the appointment. No one was concerned about how the fire department was going to run. What if people leave to go to another job? I mean, you can make that argument for any department. What if the purchasing agent leaves tomorrow? I mean, to me, it's a weak argument. Then why are we doing this? Okay, we should just not have an appointments process then. Whoever the mayor wants, that's who's in. Why are we here wasting our time? She put forward 2 candidates. I am not holding those candidates responsible for her lack of a process, for her lack of transparency. I am prepared to vote on both appointments this evening based on their merits and the other information that I've gathered about them, because it's about them. I'm prepared to say yes or no about them and not hold this up, or if I vote against them, it's not penalizing them for the lack of process, although I can understand why some others may have that problem because there was none. So I hear the arguments. I guess I come across as a heartless person because I say the mayor made her decision. Now it's time to make ours. And where it's written is, none of us are telling the public if we vote against somebody who's appointed, we don't like them personally, we feel bad, that's not why we're doing this. We looked at their qualifications, we looked at the situation surrounding their job performance, and we came to a decision. And you know what? You don't even have to explain to the public why you vote yes or no. You just vote yes or no. I've done it before. I just don't think we should be driven by what are we going to do if they're not in this role. I mean, I'm just going to throw it out there, hypothetically. What if Mr. Zemmel, being as qualified as he is, what if he got a job offer next week after watching this meeting? Someone's watching, and he got offered over $200,000. Are we going to say to him, no, you can't leave because we don't have a building commissioner now? That doesn't make any sense. So I don't think our decision should be based on who's going to be there if we don't approve them. That's not our role here. Our role is to decide if the person picked is who we agree is qualified and worthy for the position and satisfies our expectations of them in that role. And that last point is key. Because I will not argue that Ms. Fish doesn't know the job she's doing and that Mr. Zemmel doesn't know the job he's doing. But I have many concerns about the whole situation and what I heard through the testimony, and I'm ready to make a decision. I don't. For those who are concerned about voting against the appointments, if we don't pass the appointments, what could happen? The same could be said if you hold it. Because that's not a big vote of confidence. If you're dead set that they're it, then why would you hold it? Your issues with the mayor and her lack of a process, I think that should be divorced from this discussion. My own opinion, and I know that's my second crack at the bite at the apple, but you know, my colleague says he's not fond of corporate America. I'm not saying I'm a corporate America enthusiast either at times, but this is our role. And we shouldn't base our decision on, oh, what are we going to do if we don't pick them? Then why are we here? Don't have any more appointments. Thank you.
Councilor Schultz, second time.
Yeah, I just had 2 points to make. The first point is, as Mayor Squalia mentioned, we do need an employee handbook to clarify whether people can work from home. If we're going to offer that flexibility for people, and I think that flexibility should exist on an as-needed basis, depending on the department head and their needs. The second point I'd like to make is that I agree with Councilor Di Natale. I think we should go on record and vote for each one of these candidates and go on record and say yes or no to each candidate. And this on-hold business is not helping the city at all. I agree with Councilor Di Natale on that point. So that's what I'd like to see happen. Council President Earl, I'd like to see us vote on each candidate and be done with it.
My heart.
I yield the floor.
All right. Sorry? Oh, Councilor Fleming.
Could we make the vote to do that individually? What would they have to do? Just not accept the report?
Yeah, basically we would just ask for a division of the report into separate items.
Okay. I yield the floor.
Councilor Cragen, second time.
I do have a question for the mayor, which is, do we not have an employee handbook?
An employee handbook was started 8 years ago. In my first year of being the mayor, I had asked for the employee handbook numerous times, and I said, just okay, you're not done, I get it, you're working on it, just give me pieces, I'll work on some myself. I was not given that until Ms. Fish was appointed as interim HR director, at which point I got the employee handbook, and I mean, it had Councilor Jody Joseph, it had Councilor Mike Kushmarek, it was wholly and adequately complete. I personally worked on it for 7 hours on a Saturday, right when I got that, because I was just ready to move on it, and while I was watching Yellowstone all day on Saturday, and I got that thing very close to looking good. But there are a lot of things that I guessed on. So we, like I said, with the remote work policy, we're in a situation right now where we have the employee handbook that is really close, that needs HR input, and it needs some IT input and some other input from different departments. But one of the goals is to get that complete. Right now, we are just out straight when it comes to budget, and 3 of our, the major union negotiations to, all of the union negotiations up right now. So, and with the new interim HR director, it's just been a lot, and she's been catching up on old offer letters and hiring employees. So, and so we are certainly at that situation where we can get that employee handbook soon, hopefully without having to, if we have to get to a situation where we have to bring it back up to speed, it's going to delay that. But that's the situation we're at with the employee handbook.
Thank you. Just quick comment. I'm shocked to hear that for 8 years there has not been an up-to-date employee handbook. And I guess I would like to make a motion that we look at these candidates and make our decision individually. Mr. President, if it is your pleasure.
I just had a
Oh, I'm sorry, Marisa, did you?
Councilor Fleming?
Yeah, I just had a question. Did I just hear you say that you've been hiring employees before the budget is complete? I just heard you say that.
I've been mayor for 1.5 years now. We have hired many employees in that time. In the recent time, in the last 4 months or so, there's been a situation where I say no. If an employee leaves, retires, quits, we've been in a situation, unless we cannot live without that particular position, I say hold for now. I understand how difficult it is, but if we get into a situation where we can't balance this budget without having to lay off employees, the last thing I want to do is have to do reduction in force. So we have not been filling positions for the last number of months to ensure that I have that flexibility without having to actually lay off employees. I know the fire chief and I have had numerous conversations where there are currently 4 firefighters out, and they say the last thing I want to have to do is lay off 4 firefighters because we can't afford it in the budget. So no, we have not been hiring except for crucial positions and obvious positions that we're going to need, like lifeguards, for the last 4 months.
All right. I might have just misheard. Okay. Thank you.
All right. I'll just chime in briefly and say, I think the answer as to the reasoning behind the committee's recommendation to hold was different for each candidate. In the first instance, it was to hold in anticipation of a more thorough search to then see if the candidate that was in front of us was in fact the best candidate we could come up with. In the second case, the recommendation was to hold in order to monitor some of the concerns that had been raised to see if they were in fact going to be resolved in the near-term future. Rather than, I think, it wasn't my recommendation, but I think the intent was to do that rather than making a 3-year appointment with ongoing concerns. That's just clarification. That being said, I have a request to take the items in the Appointments Committee report separately. So first we have before us the appointment of Emily Stark to Fitchburg Disability Commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and second to approve. We no longer have a Councillor participating remotely, so if there is no objection, we'll take this by unanimous consent. Seeing none, it is approved. Next, we have the appointment of Brittany Fish as Human Resources Director.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and second to approve the appointment of Brittany Fish as Human Resources Director. I'm going to ask for this to be taken by roll call.
Councilor Di Natale?
No.
Councilor Fleming?
No.
Councilor Green?
No.
Councilor Schultz?
Yes.
Councilor Van Hazinga?
Yes.
Councilor Walsh?
No.
President Zarella?
Yes.
Councilor Boschman?
No.
Councilor Kuchar?
No.
Councilor Cragan?
Yes.
And Councilor Cruz is not here. So 6-4. 6-4.
Motion fails by a vote of 4 in the affirmative to 6 in the negative. We next have the appointment of Felix Zemmel as Building Commissioner.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and second to approve. Madam Clerk, when you're ready. No rush.
Councilor Di Natale?
No.
Councilor Fleming?
Yes.
Councilor Green?
No.
Councilor Schultz?
Yes.
Councilor Van Hazinga?
Yes.
Councilor Walsh?
No.
President Zarella?
Yes.
Councilor Boschman?
No.
Councilor Kuchar?
Yes.
Councilor Cragan?
Yes.
Six, 4. In favor.
Motion passes by a vote of 6-4. That concludes the report of the Appointments Committee. Report of the Committee on Records. Councilor Di Natale.
Mr. President, I read the committee meeting, council meeting minutes of May 20th, and they appear to be in order.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. I have a motion and second. If there is no objection, it is unanimously approved. We have 2 appointment letters from Her Honor the Mayor. New appointment of Jamie D'Arcangelo as a member of the Board of Health, term to expire January 1st, 2027. Reappointment of John Bogdasarian, member of the Board of Health, term to expire January 1st, 2028. Both of those stand referred to the Appointments Committee. We have the audited financial statements for the year ending June 30th, 2024. If there is no objection, we will waive the reading and it will be placed on file with the clerk's office. Seeing no objection. Report of the Public Works Committee. Councilor Schultz.
Thank you, Council President Zarella. We had 2 petitions presented on, May 27, 2025. The first petition was 09625, Councilor Andrew Van Hazinga, to install a traffic sign on Davis Street, caution autistic child, and that was granted unanimously. And then we had, I think that's still an incorrect petition number. I think it's supposed to be 09725, but we'll have to check on that. I know 069 is not correct. And that was a petition I filed on behalf of Jason Badillo of 126 South Street to repair sidewalk on Charles Street next to his residence. Concrete part of the sidewalk is deteriorated, and the tree has lifted a portion of the nearby asphalt sidewalk, and that was granted as amended. We need to have the tree warden take a look at the tree, and I think there's actually a second tree that he's going to look at right up the street and probably repair both sidewalks. Council Boschman's nodding in agreement. I think that's what would happen.
Councilor Boschman?
On that 097, I just want to make it very clear that I voted for yes on it, but he didn't mention it. There's a stipulation in that thing that he's going to make a curb cut. The property owner is going to make the curb cut into his driveway, because if he doesn't make the curb cut, I will not support that petition to get the sidewalk fixed.
So, Councilor Schultz, was that amended as a part of the petition?
As a part of the petition, yes.
Okay.
I forgot to mention. Thank you for adding that, Councilor Boschman.
So I just wanted the council to know, so we should write that in, because I don't want to say...
I just wanted to make sure, Councilor. Councilor Fleming?
Was there a question about the petition number for the Public Works?
Yeah, I think it was 097, wasn't it, Councilor?
No, it's 06925 from the original, from the agenda.
Yeah, but that was the original number, but I don't think that was correct if we go back and look at the...
The minute, I don't have the minutes yet, so.
We'll check it.
We'll check it, yeah. I'm pretty sure it was 097.
Okay.
Right. As long as we have the substance of the petition correctly identified, the numbering is for ease of identification. We're not going to accidentally approve a 06925 that we didn't intend to. All right, so that is the report of the committee. It is
Make a motion, we accept.
Second.
I have a motion and second. If there is no objection, we'll take it by unanimous consent. Seeing none, it is approved. Next, we have 2 public hearings. And I'm actually going to need my cheat sheet for this. The first is 09425. This is a petition to adopt zoning changes to comply with the Massachusetts Model Floodplain Bylaws and incorporate new FEMA floodplain maps effective July 8th, 2025. We do have a memo from the Planning Board indicating that they have approved this and recommended it for passage. On this item, I now declare the hearing open. Director Murphy, if you'd like to approach and give us a brief rundown of what we're doing here.
Sure. You may, well, first, thank you for allowing me to speak on this tonight.
No problem at all.
So you may, in your packet, have the old floodplain ordinance, or section of the ordinance, a draft, and then a summary of the changes. The new preliminary flood maps have been out since January 8th, and they do have to be accepted. Well, actually, it's not the flood maps, but the flood ordinance has to change relative to those flood maps, and it has to happen by July 8th. So this, what you have in front of you, is minor. It's minor changes, but also we reformatted the whole thing. So unfortunately, I can't give you a red line version of it, which would have been much simpler. I apologize for that, but it really did need to be completely reformatted. So, for the highlights, the newest version, as I said, reformatted the whole ordinance section. It added a section on stormwater management. Oh, excuse me. I'm on the second half of that page. Let me turn around here. Sorry, it's been a long night.
It's okay.
So the purpose was expanded on from a single purpose paragraph to a list of bulleted items, and then it really does get into utility losses for the purpose. For the actual mapping and overlay, the new version specifies that the new maps are effective July 8th of 2025. There's also some tweaks to where some of the overlay general information is split from one section into 2 sections. The administration of and permit review has changed to now have a section that really breaks down the administration of the overlay district and focuses on the building commissioner as the administrator of the floodplain. Gets into a little bit of variance change, but really that language didn't change except to include the state building code of appeals, board oversight, and some record keeping. The new version also adds stormwater management regulations and the administration of There's a new section on enforcement, which is something that we've already done as a matter of practice, enforcing the floodplain, and that is the building commissioner that would do that. And then we reordered where the definitions are. In summary, the FEMA maps dates are changed. It restructures the whole ordinance for clarity and flow, adds an enforcement section, clarifies variance process, includes some state-level oversight, adds and expands on stormwater regulations, improves public notice and documentation requirements for variances, and adds more specific zone-specific language.
Councilor Green.
Yeah, can you tell me how, by implementing the floodplain overlay district, how that could impact our residents? Like, there's probably going to be a floodplain district, right? And what does that mean for either the businesses or the residents that are in now that designated overlay?
Yeah, so we've had a floodplain district, and the maps have changed since then, and the actual flood elevation levels have changed, and that really does. The maps are probably what people will feel more impact with than this actual zoning change. I mean, the zoning change incorporates the date changes and references those maps, but it really is the maps themselves where people will feel that impact. And unfortunately, it varies from different areas of the community, and so I couldn't list off every single change, but I will say, surprisingly, in our area, most of the elevations went down instead of up. We would have expected them to have gone up because, you hear about more flooding. We see more flooding, although I will say I think what we really feel and see more often is stormwater-related flooding and lack of drainage than flooding that's resulting from the river reaching capacity and breaching that. So in downtown, as a matter of fact, we have reduced elevations. In West Fitchburg, we have some reduced elevations, but I do think there might be a couple of areas where the elevations are going up. As a matter of fact, anecdotally, somebody told me that there was a property that they were interested in buying, and that they just found out that it was out of the flood zone, and now it's in the flood zone by 2 feet.
Okay, so it expanded. The reach of that expanded just due to flooding as an overlay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Do I have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. I got to go through the public hearing process. Okay. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of this petition?
President, he wants to speak.
I support this petition.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Felix Zemmel, newly appointed building commissioner for the city of Fitchburg. Thank you all. Just to answer Councillor Green's question, it's not that it's expanded. As Executive Director Murphy just said, just certain areas have changed. The majority of the area is better, is actually gone down. But for that property, for example, that is now 2 feet within the flood zone, there is a process. It's somewhat costly and time consuming, but there is a process through FEMA to do a letter of map amendment or map revision that could potentially then revert it back to the old number. But the applicant, if they wanted to do that, if they were impacted, would have to hire a civil engineer to apply to FEMA for that. And we have a number of properties that had it under the old flood map that the map was revised because of evidence that was shown in order to take it out of the flood zone when the mapping showed that it was in the flood zone. But to show where it's also a big impact is the library project right next door here. It was previously under the old flood map, the new addition was in the flood zone. And so we had to go through a whole process because it was in the flood zone and because of timing and the way state laws work, that we had to get a variance from the State Building Code Appeals Board in order to be able to keep the project going, versus if it were after this this ordinance was updated and we had the new flood maps in place, then we wouldn't have had to go through that process and delay potentially. And there's other projects, as you know, in downtown that are happening that will be positively impacted by this ordinance because of the changes in the flood elevations.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, and just to clarify, FEMA produces these flood maps for areas all over the country, and they do regularly update them over time because flooding conditions change. Water levels in rivers change, the circumstances change. So over time, there are changes in the flood risk for different areas, and they're really designed to address the needs for the insurability of properties, and whether or not if properties at risk of flooding qualify for additional insurance. And there are additional zoning hoops that the development of these properties has to go through. So we don't get to decide what the maps are. FEMA does this. It's a long process, and it goes on for years. And it took a little while to get this one finalized, because we saw this map years ago as a proposed flood map, and it's finally been accepted by FEMA, and now we have to accept it. We don't really have much choice in there. What we do have the choice on is our floodplain zoning ordinance, the section of the zoning ordinance, and I think the changes that are being proposed improve the usability of the ordinance, improve the clarity of the ordinance, and make it a more usable, better section. So I support adopting it.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in opposition? If all have been heard, I declare the hearing closed. The matter is now before the council.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and second to approve. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councillor Fleming?
Yes.
Councillor Green?
Yes.
Councillor Schultz?
Yes.
Councillor Van Hazinga?
Yes.
Councillor Walsh?
Yes.
President Zarella?
Yes.
Councillor Boschman?
Yes.
Councillor Kuchar?
Yes.
Councillor Cragan?
Yes.
So that passes by 9 members.
Thank you very much. Second public hearing. This is on the 11025, the ordinance to extend the solar moratorium, or in this case, I suppose, renew the solar moratorium. Just a moment. I now declare the hearing open. I don't know that we need a presentation on this, but if you have one that you'd like to give, feel free.
I don't really, but
All right. Vice President
I
Van
just have a
Hazinga.
point of clarification. In the ordinance as listed, it lists the original date in addition to the new date. Is this
yes.
just a Scribner's error in how it's presented in our agenda?
Yes.
Okay. And at that point, I have no other questions.
Because the newspaper can't add a line.
Okay.
So in the posting that was advertised, they can't strike out, so it did, this is how it was posted.
Okay. Thank you very much for the clarification.
And this is basically a continuation of your last vote. Just the solicitor highlighted that this required an additional process.
Yes, precisely. I'll also note that this has been referred to the planning board for a hearing. We will need approval of the planning board before our final action on this, but I believe I conferred with the solicitor on this last time around and confirmed that nothing stops us from putting this through its first reading and then getting the feedback of the planning board before the final reading. Any other questions or comments by councilors? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor? Anyone in opposition? If all have been heard, I declare the hearing closed. The matter is before the council.
Motion to approve and move to a second reading.
Second.
I have a motion and second to pass Ordinance 11025 through its first reading. Madam Clerk?
Counselor Fleming?
Yes.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Schultz?
Yes.
Counselor Van Hansinger?
Yes.
Counselor Walsh?
Yes.
President Zarello?
Yes.
Counselor Boschman?
Yes.
Counselor Kuchar?
Yes.
Counselor Cragan?
Yes.
That passes by 9 members.
Thank you very much. We have 2 orders for finance. Order the, excuse me, it's late. 11525, order that the City of Fitchburg hereby transfers a sum of $30,000 from Fire Personal Services EMD stipend to the following fire building maintenance accounts: electricity $5,000, heating fuel $5,000, household repair $20,000. And then 11625, order that there be and hereby is appropriated the sum of $102,823.10 from Reserve for Appropriation PEG Access Expenses to Reserve for Appropriation PEG Access Cable Franchise Fee for the purpose of remitting to FATV the first quarter 2025 franchise fee. Both of these stand referred to the Finance Committee. A reminder, all proposed budget cuts are due tomorrow, Wednesday, June 4th, by noon. The next council as a whole meeting will be the budget cuts hearing, Monday, June 9th, here at 6 p.m., followed immediately by a special meeting of the City Council. And the next regularly scheduled meeting of the City Council will be Tuesday, June 17th at 7 p.m. That concludes our business for the evening.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Seeing no objection, we are adjourned.